In this part, I'm going to start shaping the legs and the boots, but I don't like this knee joint. There's too much of a gap in there, so before I get started on the shaping, I'll go ahead and trim that down. Welcome to the Grumpy Old Guy Wood Carving Studio. My name is Harry. Let's get started. Getting the legs trimmed down. It's a caricature, so it doesn't have to look exactly like a human leg. We're not carving the David, but I've decreased the gap in the knee. I might take it down just a little bit more, but we're getting there, getting some shape to it. Pretty much got his left leg shaped the way I want it now. I'll do all the final cleanups later, but upper and lower leg pretty much shaped the way I want them. Caricature, so it doesn't have to look like exactly like a human leg. Besides, he's wearing pants. Coming along now with rounding out the shapes. Still have to match the two upper leg portions a little bit better. Started on the boots. I think I'm pretty happy with how that's coming along. I'll start working on the other boot. The legs, they're pretty close. I just need to match them up a little bit. And the body, still need to bore the hole. I went and bought a set of Forstner bits yesterday so I can bore out the hole and round this portion to create his neck. This is going to be much longer than it needs to be, but I'll trim it down and dome the top of it so his head swivels on it. And then the head, well, we still got a lot of work to do on the head. I've been thinking this is going to extend into a very long series at the rate that I'm going. So I want to start working on some quicker projects. Maybe I'm doing 2 videos a week right now. Maybe one of those videos will be this guy. That'll give me a little bit of a break if I start working on other projects that are quicker to produce. And that way I can come back with fresh eyes every time I work on this. So maybe one video a week will be this guy, and the other video will be for the other project, which will move along a lot faster. We'll see how that goes. I don't know, I might continue working on this and then produce a third video with the other project. We'll see. I just don't want to burn myself out because I've got so many other projects I like to do in the springtime, like photographing the birds. I think I mentioned in an earlier video that I've got my commercial drone pilot's license. I've got a couple of drones, and as the weather improves, I want to start using the drones. Maybe to enhance some of these videos, for the intro and the outro. Let's see, maybe I'll start a separate channel and just have it showing my progress with the drones and photographing different things around the state. Of course, Oregon is not a friendly state for drones. Seems Oregon is anti-guns, anti everything I like to do. I'm not a huge gun nut, but they're tending to make it harder and harder for people, law-abiding people, to own guns. I don't want to turn this into a political rant, but we'll move on. Sitting here whittling away on this reminds me of my youth back in the 1960s in LeClaire, Iowa, on the banks of the Mississippi River. I would often take my pocket knife and a piece of wood and grab my fishing poles and a bucket of minnows or worms, maybe both, and then head down to the river. For me, fishing wasn't so much about catching the fish as it was just spending time alone on the banks. I was kind of a weird kid. I liked being alone. But I did have my friends, and I spent plenty of time with them. This is the right boot, so I need to start bringing this in a little bit to show that arch. Not so much the arch, but the indentation. Round these out some more. But anyway, I'll keep thinking about how I want to handle the videos, because I know this is probably long and boring, but hey, I'm having fun. At least one of us is. And hopefully I'm providing you with some good content about carving and whittling. So we'll move on from there. Got the boots done now, and I think I'm going to leave them where they're at now, because it's a caricature. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it is my prototype. I'm more concerned with producing something that works well rather than looks well. My next Marionette will have both features, looking well and working well. So, all right, next step was I did a little bit of fine tuning. I've got more to do. I want these legs to come up higher, more parallel, more horizontal. I guess it would be perpendicular to the body, but more horizontal, so that he can sit straight up instead of leaning back. So that's the next step. I'm going to take down some of this here. The legs are pretty much done now. I like the way they move. I like their shape. I won't be putting in the permanent pins until later on, one of the very last steps after it's all painted and everything is shaped to the way I want it. So moving along now. I think the next thing I'll do is go back to the body and put in the outline of the indication of the apron, and then carve little ribbons, and not ribbons, but tie strings for the apron on the back. I started working on the apron and the tie strings in the back, but before I go any further, I think I need to bore the hole for the neck up here. I need to round this and then dome it, and it's probably too long, but I won't cut the length down until I figure out how deep this is going to set inside. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to indent the bottom part and round that out into a little peg that is narrower than the top part, and that'll sit down inside. I've also drilled a little pilot hole. I don't know how big yet, but I'm going to pull probably a shoestring up through this, and it'll be glued in the bottom of this bore hole, and I need to round this out into a kind of a dish that the the neck will be able to, the head will be able to swivel on the neck. It'll all make sense later, but I think I need to get this part done first before I go any further, because that will determine the final dimensions on the shoulder. Started to do it with a hand drill and then decided how incredibly unsafe it was, so I used my drill press. I'm going to use a smaller Forstner bit now to create a little pocket in the bottom, because I'm going to get that shoestring, I'll tighten a knot in the bottom, and I need room for it to sit below the level of the neck. It doesn't have to be very deep. That should be, where'd you go? Oh, that should be deep enough right there. Doesn't have to be real deep. I don't need to set that neck piece in too far. I need to start rounding out the neck. I scored a circle in there. That's the diameter of the neck. And then I've got to create that little peg to go inside of that. Got the neck piece rounded out. Now I have to take about a 1/4 inch off the bottom and narrow it down so that it fits into the neck hole. I'm going to use a V tool and score around the bottom here. And then I'll just start whittling away at it till it fits in the neck hole. I got the little peg whittled down, fits into the neck hole, and I've taken down the front of the neck so that it kind of matches into the body. Now the next step will be to determine how high I want his neck to be, and then dome that. So I need to start creating a bowl for the top of the neck to fit in here so that it just sits on it and it'll be able to rotate or swivel or move. Just by eyeballing it, I've decided that's about the right height. And when I dome, or when I round out the top, then it'll fit a little bit closer to his body. So I think that's the next step, is to dome this guy. I didn't leave myself a lot of room to work with this guy. I think next time I'll dome the top and then cut it down and start working on this part. That'll be much easier to work with. I might have to do something like maybe take some epoxy wood filler and create a dome. Let that dry, and then I'll have to just re-drill my hole. I have to make it bigger anyway for the shoestring or the leather thong or whatever I used. There's another thing I can do is stick it in the neck hole, which is a pretty snug fit, and that'll help me hold it better. Say this is a prototype, and what I learn on this I'll transfer over to my next one. Actually, that should be enough of a dome there. It's not like I'm not, like I said, I'm not a puppeteer. I'm not going to be playing with him, but I still want some rudimentary movement his head when he moves from side to side. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that'll work. I'll sand it down a little bit to, so I've got this bowl shape in the neck. I think that's deep enough. I might deepen it a little bit more and then use some sandpaper to kind of smooth this out so this head moves a little more easily side to side. All right, I like that. Working much better now. Like I say, he's not going to need a lot of movement there, but I put the 2 strings on the sides of his head, and when I operate the controller, then his head can be moving back and forth. All right, moving on. All right, he's coming along. His head swivels side to side, his legs move the way I want them to. Let's move on to the finer details now. Well, in celebration of 3/14, March 14th, it's Pie Day, so I've got sourdough pizza dough rising in the kitchen, and I'm going to make a pizza out of that later on this evening. And I've also got a little bit of pecan pie that I'm going to have. I just realized a little while ago how far we've gotten on this project so far. It was starting to drag on me. I didn't know, it didn't seem like there was an end to it, but all we got left is a little bit of detail on the body. The arms are going to be fast. I need to finish up the head. That won't take too much longer, I hope. And then we can start piecing him together, start putting in permanent pins in his ankles and his knees. His arms are going to be held in with shoestrings, just like his head. So that'll be probably the last thing I do after painting. I think I'll do all that stuff after painting. Thanks for dropping by again to the Grumpy Old Guy Wood Carving Studio. Hope to see you in the next video. And get off my lawn.